Hello, welcome to my cake kitchen. If we're meeting for the first time, I'm Gladys, and over here I make simple, informative tutorials to help you navigate baking and decorating easily. We're back continuing our series on the Panda cake, and if you wonder what that is, simply Panda cake is what it is deemed to be, Panda themed cake. And this is chosen by a friend of the channel and moderator of the channel, Lollipop. She has a cake for her daughter for the 28th, and she lacks a bit of skill in the decorating department and would prefer some sort of help. So in other that she doesn't go about trying to look for resources to support her skill level, I thought I will undertake the baking and putting the cake together, taking her through the entire decorative process so that it's a resource for her to come back to come the time of making her cake. Essentially, through Lollipop's need to make her daughter a cake, we have the privilege of having a sort of learning resource which covers all the aspects of decorating and baking, from the bake to decorating to the simplistic elements that finishes the decorative details on a cake. Of course, if you're a beginner, it can be awfully difficult settling on how to make and decorate a particular cake, but there are so many moving parts involved. The good thing about this process was that I was able to take you from the start of the process, being the bake of the cake, the choices I make surrounding the ingredient selection, to the buttercream filling, to everything that it took to make this cake up until this point. I explained every single detail, my intentions surrounding it, including the cream cheese filling that went into this cake. It was not your traditional cream cheese, and the simple reason is because cream cheese can be very unstable, which can present decorative challenges to the stacking of a cake. As a result, we had to find a way to adapt it, and all that process I covered over here. You can see much of those videos that are still on a live. It is very raw and unedited, very intense, and sometimes very boring, even if I say so myself, because those videos are more like a class-based video where I am talking you through a lot of things that otherwise, if I was filming on long form, would be edited out. So this becomes a very raw and edited, very relatable and true to nature baking and decorative process, just so that you can also use that as a learning resource for yourself. Of course, the processes that I picked up are not just limited to a Panda cake. If you follow the tutorial in detail, you should be able to use that to make your own cake, whatever the style and detail is for you. It is very beginner focused or beginner centered, and I hope you continue to derive value by watching this video. If you're seeing me on replay, thank you for taking time out to watch this video again. And if you're joining us in the chat, hello there, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. I seem very proper and serious. It's just because our English weather has gone left on us. It's extremely windy. I have other commitments that are sitting on top of my head, but I'm going to make my best effort to give you the best value through this tutorial before we finish. For those of you who are in the chat, there is still our lovely moderator thye who is in there. There's our friend to the channel, unknown, she's indicated, but we call her Aisha over here, because having unknown in the middle of a sentence can sometimes be a little confusing, whether you're addressing a person or you are saying something assumably unknown. It's neither here nor there, but she's Aisha in our chat. And for all those of you who are joining us in the chat, hello, and thank you for being here today. I'm going to probably stop talking and get straight to the work, because what we have here is a cake that is covered in butter. The reason why I use butter is because we have made several videos where I talk behind that intention. Today, our main goal for this tutorial is to cover our Panda cake with fondant. Now, as a beginner, I would normally not recommend fondant cakes. The simple reason being, fondant cakes are extremely difficult to undertake and can be challenging if you're a beginner who is starting your journey. However, it can be a medium to decorate a cake simplistically if you know what you're doing. Fortunately, that is what Lollipop wants. And the simple reason is that she's challenging herself to upgrade her skill. So we covered the cake in ganache. You will see everything about the video up until this point in the prior video that you should check. But yeah, I went to cover it in butter. The reason why I've added butter serves as a glue here, because if you could use a few different ways to apply glue on your cake. You can use edible glue, you can use piping gel, you can even use spritz of water. I am not very keen on the water element or liquid element. The simple reason being, water reacts with fondant and can be very gunky, sticky and slimy, because water coming into contact with fondant does tend to have that effect because of the ingredients elements in fondant. So it can cause problems, as though when you cover the cake, stripping the cake back, especially when you have decorative challenges or difficulties, having to strip the cake back and recover, or sometimes it can lead to the covering process being sticky and tacky and a little more challenging. So I prefer either shortening, which in the UK we have. In the US, my US audience, you call it Crisco, and in the UK we have Trex. Shortening or butter or even margarine, because it's fat based, it's easier, and almost if you have to strip it back to recover, or if you're having decorating challenges, shortening can be added to fondant to help enhance the elasticity of the fondant and makes for easy handling. Because sometimes when you're dealing with fondant, you almost have to powder your hands with cornstarch or a bit of shortening. So the fat element here is more complementary and effective for fondant use other than liquid element. So I've gone ahead and just rubbed the fat over here. I also have a bit of condensation coming from the cake because this cake was kept refrigerated overnight. So because the weather is a little warm, I'm having condensation. So that is a little bit of fluid particles that will assist with being able to cover the cake. But I'm not going to bore you or take you through the entire process, because the more I talk about this, the more the cake will come to room temperature and it will be very difficult to handle. You are always better served covering a cake when it is set and solid, other than letting it come to room temperature. So I'm going to shift that to the side and I'm going to move straight on to the fondant. Over here, the ingredient selection I have picked up for my process are all accessible. This is Tesco fondant, okay? Now, if I was covering a customer wedding cake on a weather day like this, what would I be using? I would be using the Ticino premium fondant. The simple reason is that it is very easy to work with, not in skill. The skill level is still the same, but good quality fondant will help you kind of cut out the difficulties that comes with supermarket fondant that are not always optimized for your best outcome. Supermarket fondant can be very hard to work with, and if you don't know what you are doing, it can be challenging. However, I used it here to cover a baby shower cake, which is on the platform for you to see, and I am using it on this basis. Now, as you can see, I am not trying to knead the fondant, because kneading it is mishandling it. Especially, a few things will inform the choices you make surrounding the use of your fondant. So all I've done is kind of squish the fondant together. I have no interest in doing anything other than just squishing it together so that I can roll it out. And in my hand is a kilo of fondant. Now, I get the question of how much fondant is needed for a particular cake. I'll tell you, that is not a detail I can give you exactly. The simple reason being, cake that you cover come in many shapes and sizes, and you have different objectives. I don't make a point, because I'm a cake decorator, business owner by trade, and I make cakes all the time, and from my point of view, if I have leftover fondant, it's never going to go to waste. So I don't make a point of measuring how much I use, but I can eyeball fondant and work out how much you need. So for instance, for about a 6-inch cake standing about 6 inches high, I still will go for a kilo of fondant, but by the time we finish covering, we think we've used about 600 grams, and then the 400 grams goes to just sitting and waiting for to be used to cover a cake board or something like that. So even as I'm rolling out this kilo of fondant, do I believe I need a kilo of fondant to cover this cake? Not exactly, but I am using it anyway, just so that I am not sure. You are always going to be better served having more fondant than less. So that is where we are. The width of the fondant is really important here. The technique for rolling the fondant is important. If you wonder what I dusted on the table, that would have been corn powder, as in corn powder, and it stops the fondant from sticking. People use different other means. Some people use a mat, what you call a fondant rolling mat. But for me, the fondant rolling mat, unless it comes in a bigger size, it is limited in how much you can roll the fondant out, because the size of it. So imagine if I was rolling out fondant to cover a 16-inch cake, and I have a mat that's about 12-inch wide. I used to have one. Eventually I threw it out. I'm just working on my surface, and the tip here is to make sure your surface is tidy and completely clean of any dust or dirt, because especially white fondant does tend to pick up particles rather quickly. So to measure the cake, we have a 7-inch cake that stands at exactly 5 inches tall, and I've rolled out the fondant up to about 18-inch. I mean, you can be very particular about measuring the cake and then working out the diameter, but I've just rolled it out completely just so that it's easier, because at 5 inches tall the cake is not huge. But yeah, one thing I did wrong, I should have almost like lifted the cake off my work board. So that's what I am going to do. I am just introduced the just so that the cake is lifted off the work board a little bit. There we have it. And with that done, I am going to cover this. Right. I must confess, in recent life, welcome to chaos. I must confess, in recent live videos, I am having more success with Tesco fondant than I have ever had in my cake making career. So I'm wondering, what did I do right or wrong here? I must have been doing it wrong, because to be honest, on the lives I have to be a little more cautious and a little more studious about it, which helps the process. Whereas when I am doing it without the pressure of almost being in the marketplace, I tend to wing it, which doesn't give you great results. So it's Tesco fondant, but look, I am getting lollipop because the baby shower cake was all right. And look at this too. This seems all right on a day where the weather isn't our bestie, because it's very windy outside. And all I'm doing is moving the skirt around and moving this down. And I should say, it's always easier covering a cake that is shorter in height. This is 5 inches. This is your regular sized cake, because the taller the cake, the more the fondant will weigh down. Yep, we did it. Yay! We did it. You know what? Even as a professional, you can never, ever feel so confident about the outcome of fondant covering. I should add that when you're working with fondant, you work quick, you work fast. Okay, and there we have it. Right now as a cake maker, there are so many ways I could consider working with this. Remember, I am leaving this as a resource for complete beginners. So I am not going to employ all my super tips and tools, because I want to make this super accessible, very achievable, because over time you will build up on your skill. Over time you will have the ability to do things effortlessly, and over time you will find ways to introduce tools that are easier for you, because this cake almost is a good blank canvas for me to polish this cake to perfection, especially with my fondant adhering easily and not giving me problems. This cake is a good opportunity to flip it over, cover it properly, like polish it to a very clean, polished look. The kind of cake people tend to call simple, which isn't simple when you think about it in technique and style, but I digress. So if you see me almost like getting through it, that is intentional, because I am not bringing my expert skill to perfect this cake. I am bringing my knowledge of cake decorating as a professional, but stripping it back to make it achievable just for the target audience who is watching this video. And I hope that kind of makes sense. So I am going to be using my hand a lot, right? And from that I am going to switch. Also, you'll find that I am not going to be aiming for a clean, nice line polish to this cake. I am going to settle for a rounded, classic, vintage look to this cake. And that is because that is more achievable for a beginner. Right, so there we have it. I'm going to move that all over to my... And if Lollipop, on the day she comes to make her cake, if she was able to cover a cake up until this point, I think that is a job well done. Lollipop, your children, your children know that their mama bakes, right? Because it is only kids whose mom bakes will be going for such cakes, right? But anyway, isn't it nice to almost feel like you can do anything for your kids, right? So I have a small blade here, and I'm just going to cut around this. Yeah, and I'm gonna lift this up. And the advantage of using fat is that I'm able to lift my fondant without any issues. So just being pedantic, let's go and measure what is left. Lollipop, your kids are not as mad as you. They are just like lovely and precious and know what they want. Yes, so there's about 430 grams here. So give or take, let's say for 430, it means we used about 570. So give it 600 to 650 grams, give or take, right? Just so that the figure is more more even, if you like. So about 600 to anything between 600 and 700 grams, because the width, as in how thin you roll the fondant, is also important. Obviously, the more you are adept at covering cakes, the easier the width. Doesn't matter. So I'll give you an estimation of anything between 600 and 700 grams of fondant will cover a 7-inch, 5-inch tall cake for you. This cake I believe will serve up to anything between 15 to 18 servings. We're talking party servings, because when you come to cake servings, you have party servings, and then you have the wedding cake servings, which is more, is it there's a coffee and dessert serving. So yeah, the wedding type, which is the dessert servings, are very small, which is a 1 inch by 1, standing at 4 or 5 inches tall, and the party style is 1 inch by 2, sort of. So there you have it. I'm just trimming the base out. Right. Okay. So essentially, panda cake lollipop. There we have it. I would go on to kind of polish this cake. This is just a little bit of fondant that I am using to polish the cake out a little bit for a more even look. The polishing of the cake is something you can continue to do even after the fact. You can also wrap the fondant in cling film, which should present an even surface to use for the polishing of your cake. So there we have it. Lasso kit, darling, hello there. How are you today? Thank you for being here with us. Right, there you go. So we have, I mean, I'm not going to labor the point by spending the entire tutorial trying to polish the cake, but what do you think about it? If you're in the chat, let us see what you really think about what we've done here and whether you think this is achievable. I keep saying that the thing about, if you're a beginner, here's a tip for you. Learn to cover a blank cake like this. And if you do that, it's almost like your meal ticket to do anything. If you go back to watching our baby shower cake, we made a plain cake like this, and then we added greenery, like the selection of flowers that were just green and white and plain, and then we added a bit of gold detail. The thing with white is that it is such a very easy canvas to adapt into whatever form. I mean, I can think of up to 5-10 ways I can cover this cake and present. Talk about covering. I can think about 10 ways I can decorate this cake, and this one cake will become many different themes of cake that you will be surprised. I think as our baking basics develop, it is going to go to decorating basics, and I will bring you some more tips on that. So if that's a video you want to see, put your hands up so that I can also be attuned to your needs and what you may like, and then I will consider that for future videos. Okay, thank you, Lollipop. Lollipop is happy to see this develop into decorating basics in future series. So I'll be happy to come back where we pick a blank canvas cake and you get to choose how you want the blank canvas cake decorated, and the challenge will be me going to decorate the cake, and then we'll see. Yeah, I think that would be a nice challenge, wouldn't it? So if, say, we had a blank canvas cake like this and you wanted me to make it into, say, a baby shower themed cake, how I was going to achieve that, maybe without flowers. Okay, because if you, The thing is, I specialize in floral decorations. I love the use of flowers. They are my comfort and go-to. But if you take flowers out of the picture, I have to think outside the box. And then we'll see. Okay, so Panda is done. Okay, now let's see if... Now, here's our fondant covered board. You've seen me cover boards here a lot, and I have tutorials showing you how to cover a board. So I did that in advance to save us some time and to make the tutorial a little more seamless. So we have Tylose powder in the fondant, covered the board. It's dry set, which is why I'm able to hold it and touch it without leaving dents. We finished covering the cake. I'm moving the cake to the side whilst clearing my work surface. We're going to cover the board, transfer the cake, and then we'll come back and focus on the black elements of the cake. The Panda's themed cake is such a simplistic style cake. So yeah, let's get to that. In the meantime, let's see. Let me just tidy my work surface. Right. Whilst our cake is set, let's start by thinking about how we want our Panda themed elements to come through. Okay, so for the Panda themed elements, you'd imagine the panda has the ears. So what we're going to do is, just to give you a guide over what we're going to be doing, we're going to have the ears of the panda, the black bits over here. We're going to keep it very simple. And of course, the front of the cake is going to have the eyes and of course the nose to the panda. That's essentially what we're doing. I'm going to try and make sure that, I don't know if I have black ribbon. So perhaps if I find it, we're going to have a black ribbon detail on the base of the cake. Do we need it? No. But the ribbon is almost a very safe element here, because otherwise the challenge will be to almost seamlessly attach the cake to the board so it's a flush, clean finish. That takes a little bit of skill, and again, I have to remind you, I'm trying to make this very achievable for anyone who has such a basic skill level, and it's such a great undertaking to want to cover a cake by the time you're done with the baking and everything else, and then want to kind of be pedantic on the small details. So the ribbon on the base of a cake is such an easy undertaking to kind of hide the gap and between the cake and the board, and it also makes for a very clean, professional and seamless finish. So the choices here are intentional to support the skill level here. Of course, if you were an intermediate headed to pro level skill, or if you were in a cake class where you wanted to undertake this clean technique, then of course, yes, that will be a great recommendation for you. But because this is for a very complete beginner who is probably going to be covering the fondant cake for the very first time, I am just looking to make it accessible and easy and more so achievable for them. So bear that in mind in the choices I am making about the decoration of this cake. That said, the cake is back here. I'm going to put the fondant back in. See, I keep telling you I have excess fondant that I collect all the time. So there you go. It will never go to waste. It will come back. I will need it. I will use it. I almost have like a tub. I have a tub of excess fondant that I keep all the time. That aside. You will eat the fondant. You know what? Fondant is so sugary. You'll probably have enough very quickly and will. It's not as. It is not like you think it will be. It's a big tub of fondant. Actually, I bought the Massaticino. I told you, I like Massaticino, and that was a Massaticino tub. I buy the big tub like this for wedding cakes and stuff. So I have a few of the tubs that are empty now. So yeah, but Massaticino is not sponsoring me, okay? I like the fondant and I'm telling you about it. Now let me just dip out here and go bring my ribbon basket plus a few things that we will be needing in the next episode, so bear with me. Oh gosh. I will, you can hear me, I can't say, I will always tell you, the amount of skill that it takes to be a cake decorator is almost like so underrated. And I'm not tooting my own horn. You have to be an engineer to be able to build a gravity defying cake. You have to almost consider the engineering aspect of the structure of the cake and stabilizing it. So when you see, say, a 3-tier hyper-realistic minion cake, something I've done time and again, you have no idea the amount of engineering capability one has to almost bring to the table to achieve a cake like that. Then you have to also know a bit about sewing and maths and measure. Look, I have a sewing kit as though I sew clothes, and that's because you have to measure stuff. You have to measure ribbons. Besides ribbons, you also have to cut patterns. So if I was making a doll cake, I have to be able to cut patterns and different sorts of stuff. It is wild to me the amount of skill one has to bring to a table just to make a simplistic cake. That is why I think I've upset half of the internet when I went on a tangent in a short video telling you loudly out here the cakes I have stopped making. And that's not like me showing off or looking down at certain aspects of cakes. No. But it's got to be said, different things influences a cake maker's business, their choice of cakes to make, and need to serve a particular audience of customer. And I don't mind it. I am still very, very new in business. So things change very slowly for me, and sometimes I'm not very easy to adapt or change, even when the obvious is staring me in the face. I've come to find there are certain cakes that will, as a custom cake business, bear that in mind, because it's not like I have a bakery where I spent time utilizing all the commercial gadgets and equipment I have. So, for instance, if my business structure, which by the way may change in the future, I want to say that out loud, because the internet just has a way of clipping the thing you said a long time ago and completely negating the context to that and probably the ensuing or evolving change of mind in the process. It has actually scared me to not want to share a lot over here. Honestly, it is a scary thing how the internet can misrepresent your intention, you know. So I wasn't looking down on anyone or kind of throwing my nose up at certain types of cake. It is just that at the moment, as a custom cake business, it is completely hard to almost price simplistic cakes like your drip cakes, especially when you don't have them as an influx of orders. If I was making, say, up to 6 or 7 drip cakes a week, that would be sustainable. Because say if I was selling one for, say, 80 to 90 pounds and I had 10 orders of those, that is sustainable in terms of how the business looks. At the moment, I don't have the resource to be able to churn out that amount of cakes in the week. Okay, so I am in terms of what I'm doing, I'm limited to the custom cakes, which are very extremely expensive, but I'm not pushing them down on you as an individual. If you can't afford them, it is completely fine, and I'm not even mad about it. The difficulty is that the internet tends to forget that you have a certain valid experience that may not relate to everybody, but almost influences the choices you make. I have people who love my cakes, and I dare say all the time here that I am so grateful that most of the things I talk about are not my everyday. You know, I don't have like difficult customers, I don't have awful people. The one time I did, you saw how we handled it, but it's not, I don't have like the idea of having difficult customers patronizing me. Is not true for me, at least. Okay, but it does happen. The reason why I don't have them a lot is not because I don't have an encounter with them, which is very different. I do, because I'm a business. I'm available online, so because of my presence online, people are inclined to contact me. But I also have a filter system to determine who I can make a cake for and who might just appear slightly problematic. And believe me, the problematic customers are always there. The clues will tell you. And I'm not judgmental. You have the customers who are unwilling to talk to you and are very short and don't have time. And when you're chasing them for clarity to the order, they just don't get it, right? Those customers, I only have to be interacting with you once or twice, and it will tell me that you probably don't share my value system. Because if you're paying such expensive amount for a cake, I want to be able to serve you. But some people who contact me believe, or at least just assume, that I'm a standard bakery, and so they just want a cake and that's it. They don't have any need to be interested in anything I am seeking or trying to say. So I have been blessed with people who appreciate what I do so much, and I aim always to serve them and show up with my best quality cakes. I don't actually make a point of discussing the lengths I go, because that again would be me tooting my own horn. But I'm sure if I brought 10 of my most recent customers, you will be surprised the lengths I go to serve my customers and just make sure they have a great experience. So the point of saying I don't make certain cakes is not targeting anyone in the idea of segregating. It's just a business thing at the moment, in the immediate time. If I were to restructure and adapt my business in the future, who knows, I might actually be serving drip cakes as my main cake of choice. But there is time and context to that. I don't know how I got to that part of the conversation, but I think the reason why I brought that back to the conversation is because I'm talking about the amount of skill that it requires to make a certain level of cake. And for that, sometimes the value or price of the cake remains static. People don't understand why you're charging them £150 for a drip cake. And to be honest, I wouldn't either if I didn't make cakes, okay? I wouldn't understand why this thing that looks so simple should cost that much. For instance, if you're paying, say, £130 for a 7-inch drip cake to serve 30 people. Now, let's break it down a little bit. 7-inch cake to serve 30 at, say, £120 leaves us with, is it £4 per serving? Is it? Am I right? Let's do the maths. We have 30 people and the cake is priced around 100, anything between 125 to 140 pounds, and it's 30 people. So it's £4 per slice. Come think about it. Yeah, £4. So that leaves you an average of 120, right? But people want to pay like 70, 80 pounds for a drip cake. If you think about the serving of 30, okay, think about it. How much do you pay for a dessert in your local shop? Thank you, Lasso Kid. I just saw. Yeah, it's £4. If you in your local shop, think about your local ice cream. Think about your local what do you call it? It's an American thing that has my brain is gone fuzzy. It's an American thing, dessert that has maple syrup on it. What is the name? Somebody tell me. It is square and it's got the name has escaped me. What do you call it? The American dessert that normally goes with bacon and the maple syrup. You know what I'm saying? Right. Oh, what is the name of this thing? Ah! Waffles. Yep. I forgot. It's waffles, yeah. Think about if you went and just picked a waffle with maple syrup. How much are you charged for it? So on that principle, yeah, lollipop, thank you. On that principle, if you think about just a waffle, and there are a few local dessert spots around my on the other side of town. Latonia, hi there. Latonia, how are you? Right, so yeah, if you think about waffle, I don't think realistically you can get a gourmet style dessert, even whether it's in a van, a go-to, for any less than £4. I don't think so. I think I'll caveat this by saying those who are starting, Latonia, I'll speak to you in a moment. I can see your comment over there. But at the moment, I don't think you can get any dessert, gourmet dessert, less than £4, and the equivalence will be about $650. I'm just giving you some rough maths here. So imagine if you're serving 30 people and you're asking me as a customer, because we have to then differentiate the differences in business. And I think sometimes when these conversations are had, I think there's a disconnect between the customer and the business. The business is feeling so precious about and protective about what they are selling, and the customer is also feeling guarded about how much they can afford, because the truth is times are hard. I am one to tell you times are so hard that this thing I do here is not that serious, people. When I say it's not that serious, I'm not devaluing it, but as a business owner, I can assume the position of a customer easily and tell you that what I do is extremely luxurious. If you can't afford it, that's fine. I mean, TikTok over there is having a meltdown over luxury stuff, and it's wild, okay? We can almost laugh about that. But Thelma is back. Remember, Thelma, hello, darling. You must have seen yesterday's video, because yesterday's video, I made a point of mentioning you in there. Thelma, so great to have you. Greetings to you, and I hope you are better and back for good, okay? I'm sending you so much hugs, and thanks for stopping by. Now, let's talk to Latonia. Latonia says, Latonia was saying, did I miss anything, Latonia? Please, if you were asking a question, ask it again, because if I have to scroll all the way back, I will miss everything else that is happening below there. But I saw you were saying something about the decorating, and your problem is areas are flavor because you use box mixes. Can we pick up the conversation from there? Oh, okay. You weren't asking a question. Okay, were you talking to Tabitha then? So yeah, I was saying I can assume a customer's position and say, If they can't afford it, I'm not mad. It's not a big deal. Look, times are hard. If people cannot afford a cake, it's you. There was the conversation about what is those people? Walmart pricing their cakes for £25, and people are going into a meltdown. And recently, I actually saw a creator, two creators who were coming at each other, and they were like, one was like, they make fake cakes and something, and then the creator, it's such a wild story, I can't wrap my head around it. Somebody has a business making fake cakes, and then a real cake maker who makes proper cakes. It's a wild story, follow me on this one. The cake maker who makes real cakes was contacted for a fake cake. I think for some reason they contacted the person who makes fake cakes and specializes in that for some tips. Now the fake cake maker gives the real cake maker some tips, and you would think everything is settled. I ask you for help, you give me, I thank you, we exchange pleasantries, everybody's happy, I'm grateful for doing a good deed. The other person is super appreciative of a good deed. What could go wrong? Well, something went wrong, because the real cake maker then goes on about her business, and whatever happened over there to her making a fake cake for this requesting customer, she then decides that she is now going to start making fake cakes. Except here's the catch. The fake cakes she is going to make, she is going to be making them for free. What could go wrong with that? Her business, her money, her choice. Is that a problem? Am I missing something? Well, remember the fake cake maker who gave the real cake maker tips. Now, the real cake maker wants to make fake cakes as part of her business, but wants to make fake cakes for free. The fake cake maker is in a meltdown about how the real cake maker is taking her entire business. And in my head, I saw it. I'm like, maybe I'm missing something. But if you're that mad about somebody doing something that is just an idea for you, and you have to have a whole meltdown about how they're stealing your business, then you probably didn't have a solid business to start with. Because you know what? This is the world of business. Someone will take your idea. There are ways people take people's idea that I am completely not with it. But you have to assume in life that the unfairest thing will happen to you, okay? And when it does, you either dust up and go at it and do whatever you can, including if you have to take legal action and fight. Now, I know, sometimes it can be hard and you don't have the resources, and all you have to resort to is pity party. But there's only so much pity party. There are things that will happen and you have to go, okay, I can't do anything about it. Buttercup, you just move on, you know? But to kind of do a whole like meltdown video about how your business is being taken away from you, I'm like, if you stop to think about it, how many businesses are still existing even though they have ton of competition? How many business? And that is because when people feel so special about their business, they can't take away the emotion. Look, it's hard to run a business. It's hard to take a business from the ground up and invest such sleep and commitment and give your all to it. So the emotion of feeling so robbed from your business is real and true. But it's going to happen because somebody who doesn't want to do the work and wants to exploit the easiest opportunity will come and take your business idea. But you know what will separate your business? Because a business is not just the idea. A business is also what you are offering to the customer. And what you are offering to the customer is set in your skills to make the actual thing, to serve the customer diligently, and to go ahead of that and make sure you are serving their every need. And for that, not everyone, even if the person who stole your business idea has all the resources, there is no guarantee they can do what you do. And sometimes that is where your strength should be. Let everybody steal your idea, but you come home and worry about how you are going to beat everybody in actually tangibly showing up for your business. So I say that to say, whilst I know how much it takes to run a business, I have lost sleep. Sometimes I'm pottering around here at 3 a.m. filming a video I should have no business filming. I'm not complaining, okay? Yeah, lasso kid, just to give context, turns out there, I think I kind of highlighted the story in such quick detail. Turns out the person who was offering the cakes for free had a genuine empathetic reason for it, because the fake cake is what they call grave cakes, and the cakes are for people who have lost a family member and they are celebrating at the graveside or something very sad like that. So this real cake maker thought they are going to make content around the fake cake they are now going to be taking on. Their business hasn't changed. They're just welcoming the opportunity of making this cake and then donating it for free to people who might need a fake cake because they've lost a family member. So I think whilst her intention is set in serving a community that needs the help and the free cake, on the back end, it's not it's a good deed, but it also has accompanying selfish deeds to it. Because the selfishness is that if you are creating content from the thing you are giving away from free, you are actually on the back end making money from it. That is, if you are a creator who is monetized enough to make money from it. So essentially it brings you advertising value, it brings eyeballs to what you're doing. So it might seem like you're all doing great over here, but on the side you are also growing a business. So the idea is not all like, it's not all this great thing. It's still savvy business and it's great. The key thing to note here is that whilst the intention looks like they are undercutting the fake cake maker, they are not in the same vicinity or environment. So just imagine me being a cake maker and then waking up one day and saying to myself, I actually don't fancy selling. I will sell cakes if I do, and I'll still create content, but I want to make cakes for people for content for free. And then somebody on the other side of the internet is like, oh, how dare she? She's now taking wedding clients. It doesn't work, does it? Can you see what I'm saying? But that is just by the way. Let's yeah, let's go ahead and drape the board in ribbon, right? And you would think I do anything special. Not at all. All I do is apply glue. Latonia, you've got the attention of Tapita. Tapita has been baking longer than I have been alive, okay? So she is, yeah, lollipop. People sometimes just want to be angry for all. Anyway, I just had an experience lately that has just made me a little wary of being so expressive of my thoughts about things, especially things that are so unlikely, that are not like you are joining the crowd, because sometimes people just, you're okay. Latonia says she's working on how to use Tapita's literally, I'm going to read Tapita's comment in the live chat. She's like, Gladys, darling. Okay? I'm going to say that in my best British accent. Hi, darling. So she's like, Gladys, darling. Okay, so Latonia is saying she's working on how to lose her cake mix, on how, because right, am I reading this right, Latonia? Has autocorrect got you saying things differently? Or let's see here, I'm working on how loose my cake mix should be. Is it loose or thick? What is the consistency now? I kind of have missed that. What's the consistency? Is it too thick and you're working on how to get it? Okay. Right. So, see, we have a black ribbon on the base of our cake. Now, the next thing we want to do, I cannot believe how quickly time has passed. I'm gonna turn my kettle on. Okay, Latonia, let me just finish this thing I'm doing here and I'll talk to you properly about your if you've been here last time, I am doing exactly the thing I was doing last time. I am applying the fondant so that it's tacky, and then we are going to go ahead and move the cake on top of the fondant. But you can do this using buttercream or ganache. I am just using fondant so that it will give me better hold. Now I'm going to turn that because I need to be facing the cake, but the back is where the needle is sticking into the ribbon. So I have centered my board, and now we're going to get the cake. Now when you're trying to transfer the cake from, welcome to chaos. When you're trying to transfer a cake from work surface to board surface, this is where things can get really tricky for you. So I'm going to try and make it easy for you. For fondant cakes, if you have a solid covering, your cake should set easily, and it should be easy to move it with less handling. But what you actually need is a thin blade or something thin that you can slide under. In the past, I have used what you call a palette knife, the decorative palette knife. I don't have it here. An offset spatula won't work. I'll tell you why an offset spatula won't work. Okay, I don't want to touch the cake, so there you go. There you go. Right? Now you can use this to shift the cake back. Yep. Does that look like a polished looking cake? Now let's see. Normally, I would say I like my cake a little off-centered, so it moves slightly to the back. But from the front, this is what we have. Yeah? So our cake is covered. But I was just talking to you about how you can transfer it seamlessly. Okay? I'm just going to right, so let's talk through what we have over here. Now, if you're transferring it from board surface to work surface to display board, why can't you just lift the cake? Because when you lift it, you're going to squish the cake and you're going to leave an indent on the cake, and that will actually ruin the look of the cake. You definitely want to work at avoiding that, which is why when we were trying to cover the cake, first of all, the cake was stacked to the board surface using ganache. And that is because that is to ensure stability in the covering process when you're using ganache, right? Now that I finished that, normally I would transfer the cake from the board surface to a secondary clean board, just so that the bottom is not sticky, making it easy for the cake to be transferred. Remember, at the start of the decorating process, we had a card underneath over which our cake is stacked. That also helps to make the transfer process convenient and easy without exposing the cake. So with that in mind, you saw me lift the cake before I covered it in fondant, just so that it is easily detachable so we can transfer it. Now, the reason why you need a blade, you can see that this is a very thin offset spatula over here compared to this, for instance, that is thicker. This is going to dig into the cake because what you're seeing here is a chunky bit of metal that doesn't sit seamlessly under the cake. There are so many ways you can lift the cake. Some people work on parchment paper, so all they have to do is try and lift the cake. Some people stick a dowel in here to lift. There are so many ways. Find the way that is convenient for you. For me, I have found out. I even bought myself a trowel, as in a building trowel, but the metal bit is too chunky for me. I only use that when I'm making wedding cakes where the card is replaced with a cake drum, because it's thick enough for me to kind of dig the trowel underneath to lift it up. But there we have it. This is done. Now, if I'm trying to think. 1 second. Now, if you didn't want to put a ribbon under here and to make it a rather seamless look, this is my Flexi Smoother. The Flexi Smoother will almost like guarantee a flawless, seamless look, so that I do not have to use a ribbon, because what you're trying to do is make sure the cake is sitting so flush on the board surface you cannot see the clear line, because when there's a gap it does make it unseemly. Okay, so I am just going to, because initially I kind of waxed lyrical about why I didn't want to do that, but I see that having the black ribbon, the distance here and that is just going to leave it so dark. So we could do better by just making sure we can make it a seamless look on the cake drum and the board, and that's what I am doing now. So all I'm doing is using my Flexi Smoother. You've seen me use this Flexi Smoother here. And if you do have air pockets on your cake, you probably need this is an office pin for sewing, but you can get yourself acupuncture pins. You can pick them on Amazon for next to nothing. They are very helpful and will help you pop air pockets without leaving big pin marks on your cake. And for that, I think our Panda cake is almost, we are getting to finishing it, because now that we've got our cake covered, we want to go and get our decorative details and Panda face all sorted. So I'm going to move the cake. I'm going to tidy my work surface. Then we will get to it. Right, Lasso Kit says it's sitting flush. Thank you. So we're done with that. So I'm going to, what do you think so far? You know, for those, let's not forget the idea of making this is to make the cake attainable for beginners. So if you're a beginner, do you think, if you followed this tutorial up until this point, Do you think you are going to be able to achieve this? More so, what's your name? Lollipop Darling, are you going to be able to do this? Do you feel confident that the task of doing this cake is something that will prove beneficial to you? Be honest. You are going to try your best. That's all you can do, darling. That is all you can do. Because Latonia, are you asking me a question or you're speaking to you, Tapita? Do I get a dome top? Not necessarily, but some recipes do. It's not, I'm not saying not necessarily because I'm special, okay? The dome tops has the reason you have to have an understanding of why dome tops form, right? So essentially there are so many influencing factors for domes on a cake, and they are not things that you can easily get rid of without understanding what is causing it. A dome can sometimes just form simply because it's an integral part of the recipe process and the baking. Domes are formed as a result of rapid heat in the cake, causing it to rise when the cake rises. However, the part where the recipe is the cause of the dome is depending on what technique and ingredients meaning the main ingredients influencing rise, which is baking soda or baking powder. So imagine I'm a recipe developer. I develop a recipe and the recipe calls for, say, a tablespoonful of, say, a tablespoonful is a lot, by the way, a tablespoonful of baking soda and 3/4 of a tablespoonful of baking powder. So you have baking soda and baking powder. Now it says maybe cream your butter and sugar for, say, 6 minutes, which means you are mechanically enhancing the air pockets that will eventually contribute to the rise of the cake. So the influencing factors come from the technique, the influence of the rising agent, and ultimately the heat source and how it affects the baking. So these are the primary sources or reasons why dome forms. So if you want a great recipe that has exact ingredients that causes a dome, but you have a great cake, well, you trim off the dome and you still have a great cake. Domes are not exactly the bane of baking. You can get rid of them by just slicing them off the top of the cake. But I know bakers are sometimes obsessed with just wanting to get a flat bake, and that also is hugely influenced by the type of recipe. Because if you understand the recipe, the technique, and how it rises, then yes. But sometimes domes can also just form simply because of the amount of heat. For instance, one of the influencing factors to actually getting the big dome rise of a muffin is starting with much heat and then lowering it in the process. Because the more heat rushes into the bake, the more it will rise up very quickly for you. So the heat element is secondary. The bigger picture here is the recipe and the influencing factors of rising agent. I hope that answers your question. However, to answer the question, do my cakes bake dome? Not all. My chocolate cake bakes dome, and that is because the recipe calls for rising agent, self-raising flour, and all sorts, and the process causes it to dome. I'm not mad about it. I just trim and move on. My vanilla doesn't dome. Occasionally it does when I overwhip it or my heat source is just not as it should be, but it's by nature, it's a cake that bakes flour, and I have actually tried it on this channel time and again, and you can find videos of my vanilla cake, and it doesn't bake domed. Carrot cake, because it's a very dense cake, normally doesn't bake dome. But I can't say all carrot cakes don't bake dome, because all carrot cake recipes are not the same. So certain cakes are almost like susceptible to domes, and certain cakes don't. It all depends on recipe and secondary and influencing factors that will cause the dome. But I should reassure you, a cake baking dome is not the worst thing to happen in baking. I understand it's a slight inconvenience if you're not looking to trim your cakes down and you just want to have a flat topped bake. But please don't bog yourself down with that intention. It's really not that deep. Good luck. I think, Latonia, you have got yourself some supporters in the group who actually support your dome cake. So I have nothing to tell you about that. They're out there telling you eating your domed cakes are quality. I mean, yes, that's how you can be the best auntie and best friend, because if you don't have the dome, what cakes are you giving away? Because the dome, if you bake a smart cakes as I do, you just wait and get the domes and give them away. That's it. That's your Betty Crocker once baked dome. Anyway, our lollipop. I don't know why you wanted to put us through having to make panda ears, darling. This is a lovely cake we have made here. All I want to do is stick an edible image on top and be done. Sis, why? But anyway, let's go and consider how we are going to make the panda eyes and the panda ears. I'm gonna start with the ears first, and what we're going to do is we're getting ourselves black fondant. Get ready for the mess. Okay, I have black fondant. I have black fondant. I have black fondant. Get ready for the mess. So, oh no, I haven't got black fondant. I've got brown fondant. I've got, oh God. You know what? I'm going to get myself some gloves. I normally don't like gloves here. The only reason I am using gloves is because we have a white cake and I'm working with black bits over here. I'm going to have to move my hands, and I don't want to mess the cake we have. Okay? I don't want to do that. So we're going to go for black fondant. Oh no, we don't have black fondant. It's brown fondant. No, people, no. I know I'm not good. I don't know, but I know I'm not good at black color theory. Why is anybody, Latonia out here coming for Auntie Betty? Auntie Betty is not gonna have it, you know, sis. You better leave Auntie Betty alone. Let Auntie Betty give us dry cakes over there. And look happy doing it. Okay, Thelma. Okay, no problem, darling. Look after yourself. Great to have you back, and all the best. We'll see you tomorrow, okay? Tomorrow we're baking a banana loaf, okay? I've gone ahead and I've cooked my banana in the oven. Apparently, it's a trick to get a banana loaf, okay? Bake the banana, because I have ripe bananas. I have ripe banana, but I wanted it overripe and dark. And guess what? I just chucked the entire thing in the oven, so it will bake. So that's where we are. Look, people, when I tell you my life revolves around cake, we're baking this cake tomorrow, and look at what I've done. I got up, I took the bananas and I put them in my oven, and I turned the oven at 50-degree fan. And yeah, the bananas turned dark, and I want them dark because the dark banana breaks down the sugars, which makes for a better tasting banana loaf. Okay? That's fine, Latonia. You're not shading Auntie Betty. Don't worry. We can shade Auntie Betty if we get the chance. But if Auntie Betty is really good, why shade her? Right? Are you new to baking, Latonia? Tapita is out here shading Auntie Betty. Now, if you wonder what I'm doing, I've just added some Tylo's powder. Lasso Kid says, I cook bananas too. Yep. I mean, apparently, if you bake them like this, you can add whatever you want to with it and squish them and eat them together. Oh, you're new to baking. What do you like to bake the most, Latonia? You've never had a banana split. What do you mean? Like the banana splitting? Am I missing something, Tapita? Okay, there we have it. Right, so if you wonder what I'm doing, I have some black fondant here, and into that I added a touch. Yes, Litonia. Yeah, baking is different. Baking is a form of cooking, but it's not the cooking of the food we know how to always, right? So yeah, I am not, you know what, don't be hard on yourself. The fact that you can cook is a good thing. So because then you have some transferable skills, which means if you can cook, you are confident in the kitchen and you can know your way around the kitchen. It's different from somebody who has no clue. Have you ever known anybody who can't cook trying to fry an egg? It's a shit show. Okay? So don't be too hard on yourself. Don't be too hard on yourself. How long have you been wanting to bake? And if you've already, I see from the chat that you have started your journey and you're trying to learn a few things. How long have you been doing this? Lasso kid, ignore us, okay? We are having a good time over here. Tabitha, your what do you call it? Is it autocorrect? It's a mess. You need to go and talk to autocorrect to kind of be kind. What I'm doing is just rolling the fondant a little thicker than I would need it. And what I am looking for, right? So for the panda ears, I am not looking to make them any. What I need here is, this is a set of cutters. Look, I picked these cutters from Hobbycraft, I think, or Amazon a long time ago. But any set of round cutters will do. These days, look, let me just plug you onto something. These days, you can pick some of these random items on Temu for next to nothing. So go pick some up, right? And what you need is I think this is the 2.5 inch one. Anything between 2.5 inch and 3 inches, it just has to be proportional to the cake. And what I am doing is I am cutting that in the middle. And as you can see, it's a little thick on the side, right? And what I am going to do, because I don't want the panda ears to be too big, right? I don't want the panda ears to be too big. So what I am doing is I'm cutting this right in the middle. Okay. One way to ensure you've got it right in the middle is get the one on top of the other, right? So you've got two equal sized ears over here. And what I'm going to do is just, as you can see, I'm not doing anything special to them. I'm just molding the ear, because the panda ears, the way it shows on top of the cake, I'm just using a little bit just so that I can have some form to it. Now, this is where the use of Tylose powder is very good, because Tylose powder allows the element to, the fondant to set, so you can model it and move it easily, right? So what I am going to do is stick a toothpick, dipping the toothpick in water. Dip your toothpick in water and find the middle of it and stick it in there, right? Because then that is going to go into the cake. And I'm doing exactly the same with the second ear. Now, you can see I eyeballed this, because what I don't know is whether the ear will be proportional to the cake, but we'll find out, okay? So that's the panda ears, right? And we used, just so that Lollipop has the detail, we used the 2.5 inch cutter here the cutters come all the way up to small, and depending on what you want, you can also use bigger ones. It's all down to preference. If you're a beginner, a good tip to do this is to start with use a paper, any type of paper, to kind of gauge. So trace the ear out or sketch it out like something little like that, or even cardboard. Start with cardboard, shape the cardboard ear and see if it's proportional. The only reason I've just gone straight to doing it is because I've eyeballed it. But yeah, the tip is use cardboard ears first to kind of determine the size for yourself, and then go on to cutting the details out. Now we are going to cut the panda eyes and the nose. That is very specific, right? So I'm gonna cut one circle here. I didn't think about what I was doing, so I'm gonna have to mold this again and then cut it. Okay, right, so now we have panda eyes. One. Now I'm using the smaller cutter and I'm cutting 2 of the panda eyes, but we know panda eyes are not exactly round. They are sort of slightly oval. So all I'm doing here is just shaping them slightly. Now, I don't know for certain if I've got the shape right, but I'm willing to try, and you can adjust this over time. So there you have it. And let's see. I'm just looking for a ruler just so that I can give you the exact measurement of the eye size here. We have the 1.5 inches. So the cutter for the eye is the 1.5 inch circle. Okay. And what I am simply doing is you get a round circle like this. And then what I am doing is just pressing the side, the bottom side inside this way, as you can see. I'm not going to overdo it because you can always try and mold it back, the shape back, other than overdoing it, right? So there we have. I'm going to move that also. Now you can see there's texture on it. Texture adds to detail. I don't, it's a simple panda cake. I'm not fussed about the texture on the fondant. But if you do not want the texture, you can make sure your fondant is clearer without the texture. Okay, so I've just used my hands and molded that simply over there. Now, let me, just so that I don't go and get this completely wrong. Bear with me. Right, I was just looking at the photo of a panda cake over there. So I've gotten the panda eyes here. Now for the nose, right, The thing with Panda cake is you can always determine some of the details. So I am not going to go for the nose that is cut. I'm just picking up a round fondant, right? You roll a ball from that. You press the ball down, okay? And then you get a heart shape, sort of. Can you see what shape I am making here? You press the sides in, you press this in, and you press the details down. You'll see how that kind of forms into the nose. Oh, Latonia, great to have you. Come back next time, and all the best. Hopefully you can find more tips on the channel. Okay, take care, lovely, and thanks for stopping by. Right, so I have just done this. What I am going to do is move, because part of the decorating of a cake here is you are never sure whether the details you have produced are going to give you the results you need. So we are going to try it. And first and foremost, you want to make sure your cake is on a sturdy surface, not on a turntable. The simple reason is the turntable will move around, so you are not going to be able to get exact, precise positioning of the. You'll find I'm going to move out of shot anyway, because I need to be able to see what I'm doing. Maybe you'll see me on the side, and the reason is I need to see how to position the cake, and I can't do it when the cake is facing you. And if I was doing it over there, turning the cake away from you, you couldn't see what I'm doing. So I'm going to move to the side, and probably if you're watching this on replay, I am over here, but we will try and make this work. I'll be back on screen in a minute, but you almost have to. You almost have to determine where you want your details to go, and I have almost like thought to myself that the panda ear might just do well here. So what I'm doing is I am using a toothpick to point to that and mark it and put the ear in, and same over there, right? Okay, and for that I'm going to polish this off so we don't have too much white. Now, this is where you can go in and apply a little bit of detail. You can cause movement in the ear, because by just leaving it, it's just flat with no movement. But this is just a little bit of intention over there is helpful, right? Now, let's see where the panda ice is going to go. Can you see what I'm doing? Now, the panda ice, I am more interested in where the panda nose is going to go first. Let's see. Okay. The panda ice is normally, depending on what you're looking at, here we are. It's kind of an elongated circle, if you like. So I'm going to, and depending on how you position it is going to determine what mood the panda is going to be in. I am very wary about using water, because if, say, I don't like the positioning. If I don't like the positioning of the Panda ice, I'm going to have to move it. And for that, I am not going to use water. I'm going to use shortening just so that I can move things around if I have to. So this is like the test run for the Panda eye. And then with that, see, the thing with shortening is you can almost move it without the black making an imprint. We have one eye here. Let's see. I'm applying shortening still. The shortening just helps to make the cake less tacky. Now, if you put the eyes too far apart, the Panda is going to look so unhappy or weirdly high. Make of it what you think. And if you put it too close, Panda is going to look a little bit uncertain. So like I said, how you position the eyes is going to determine the mood of Panda. Okay, now we have Panda's nose. Which would normally go, I'm just moving Panda's nose a little bit. Can you see a Panda even before the white comes along? Can we see a Panda? I think I see a cute doggy. Class. Can you not make a simple Panda to save your life? Okay. And then after that, what I am going to do, I'm just rolling a log of fondant here. Very little. And moving that over here. Now that is all dependent on how you... Panda is cute. Is that Panda? Panda is super cute. No, Panda. People, be honest though, is that just a cute little doggy or is that a Panda? If you cannot see a Panda, tell me. But I know we have to come back and do the white bits though, people. So don't judge me yet, okay? Okay. Okay, I can see a Panda on the screen. Oh, thank you, Mira. Mira, thank you. Right, now, let's go and put the white bits because that's where the tricky part comes in, okay? Now, let's go put the white bits because the white bits is likely to make the Panda's eye look like this. Okay, right. Now, right, so now this is the part this friend here comes off, right? So do you think it needs the white bits or we've just got Panda? Look, I will leave it this way. People, now vote what you want. Do you want the white bits? Because if we can already see Panda, I'm not doing anything else. I just want some blush on Panda's cheeks and we're done. The eyes could be more elongated. Okay, I'll go for it. People, this is where your voice matters. Add your detail, bring your voice to the decoration. We are making, this is a group effort, you know. I am just the class leader, right? So Lasso Kid says the eyes could be a lot more elongated. Okay, you know what, the thing about cakes like this is that you are completely in control of the details, and you don't have to aim for exact or perfect. You just have to make sure that if somebody sees the cake, they can see your idea in whatever form that comes in. Vote for white bits. Okay. Okay, fantastic. Is the eyes elongated enough? Because I'm also wary that because we have tylose powder, I do not want to press it too much, because then we might end up warping the eyes. Okay, so right, so we want the white bits. Okay, I'm not mad. I asked the question, and if you've given me the answer, we'll go for the white bits. Bear with me. Right, so what I'm doing here is I am just using a bowl tool. I did say I wasn't going to employ my fancy bit, so no, I'm putting the bowl tool to the side and I'm pressing this out with my, right, okay. Panda looks cute. Panda, okay, right. Now, we're going to add the white bits to Panda. And then we will steam Panda cake, and yeah, Panda will be amazing. Panda, how are you keeping? Okay, now, let's see. Okay, I like Panda going. Look at me pulling faces at you. Okay, we're going for white bits. Where is my, yeah, my tab of leftover fondant? We have it. So let's do white bits. Okay. Right. So I'm trying to see. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to roll some fondant. Now, we will never know what that will look like until we apply it, but I'm willing to try. So I have one round fondant here. Right, so we have, you have to make sure your two bowls look exactly the same, because otherwise the eyes are going to look deformed. So this is a part that will take a little more detail, but the fondant doesn't have tylose in it, and the reason being I need the, okay, so we've got that. Now this mission here is normally a trial and error, because sometimes you just don't know. So I am just going to go ahead and mark a point here. I'm using the bottom of my brush to create a dent. And I'm using the same to create a dent over there. Okay. For Panda. And I am going for and then what you can do here, you want to be careful, because whatever tool you use, it's always going to leave a dent, and you do not want that. So there you go. And then do we press the white in, or we should just leave it as round as is? People, vote for your interest. Should I press the white in so it's more flat, or we should leave it as is? What do you even think? Should we press it in? press it in. Okay, right, I'm just going to dab it slightly. Okay, there you go. And then we are going to wipe the rest of the, okay, yep. Right, what is Panda looking like? Is Panda looking like we imagined? Is Panda looking like we imagined? Right. Do we put something on Panda's nose as well? Because, as in, do we put a white? Sometimes they, okay, let's see. This is just me going overboard. Do we put something here for Panda, or we leave Panda? No. No, we don't want anything on Panda's nose. Yeah, we don't want anything on Panda's nose. So I think Panda is done. Because as a cake decorator, at some point, you should know when to stop. And this is where we stop. Because this is not my idea. This is Lollipop's idea. Neat pink on the ears. You know what? Remember, we were trying to make this a lot more simplistic and achievable. And yes, we could I could do the pink, but no. The simple reason being, we just want to make, by the time Lollipop bakes, the box links, puts it together and get to this one, she will be sweating bullets. She wants to be done, okay? So let's be done with this already. What I want is some pink blush on Panda's cheeks. Now, Lollipop, this is not for you to do. Don't worry about it. But let me see if I can get my, what am I looking for? Yep. What am I even doing? Looking for my... Okay. Right. This is not even pink. This is rose gold-ish. Glad, be careful. Okay. So let me see. I'm not trying to do much, but here we're giving Panda a bit of blush. See, this is how much makeup I can do. Okay. Okay. Just to give it dimension. You don't have to do this, Lollipop. But yeah, Panda has pink cheeks. Can you see? That's all. Yeah. And that's it. I know, pandas have got a lot of cheek to be so cute, right? Okay, people. Our panda cake is done. I am so happy with how it turned out. You know what? I took on the challenge, but I wasn't, not that I wasn't confident, but sometimes when you're like, I haven't done this, I wouldn't choose this cake for myself, as in, sometimes you only choose the cake you know you can execute. But if someone puts it on you, you're like, I'm not sure. And then here we have it. Now, I'm looking for somebody who is celebrating a birthday and I can give them a panda themed cake. No, not really. The people in my house will be so happy to eat a panda cake, okay? We are so happy. We will be eating our cake over here. It's Easter, by the way, and it's carrot cake. I mean, it's Easter, right? So, yeah. Panda and carrot cake for Easter. So, Lollipop, do you think... Mira, you are my person. Thank you. Yeah, challenges make us grow. And yes, this is actually lovely. Even if I say so myself. Now I'm looking at Panda. I'm like, oh, okay. Panda looks so cute. Panda is like, Okay. So we made Panda. And yeah. we make panda, 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 panda. Panda cake, panda cake, panda cake. Right? So now let's have some ideas about what we do with panda. Panda, what do you want to be done with? So we're going to cut into panda. Not now. Let me just appreciate panda and take photos with panda and then probably come back. I'll come back and I'll cut into panda. Maybe, yeah. Yeah, I'll be happy. I'll be happy to come back and cut panda. Actually, I can, you know what, we're going to, panda will be our cake for Friday. Remember, I told you I've got some Ghanaian things to go do on Friday, and I will be back for cake and giggle. Maybe it will be, I will save panda for Friday then, and then we'll cut into panda, and then we can eat panda and have a gossip with panda. Yep. So yeah, that is it. Panda cake, panda cake, panda cake. We are done. It is so simplistic and so easy to achieve. I sincerely hope if you land on this video, you will find it useful. Okay, good people. Here is me and panda cake. We started 2 days ago, and the amount of work that we have undertaken doing this is actually worthwhile, because we baked the cake, we made the buttercream, we made the ganache. Yesterday we covered, and yeah, today we finished panda. I think all in all, give or take, it's about a total of about 6 to 7 hours of work. Because if you check the videos, when you saw the bake, like if you take away the prep time for ingredients before the live, because the videos are unedited, I think on Monday we had 2 hours, and was it yesterday we had 2 sessions, one for an hour and the one before was about a little over an hour too. So give or take, both about 2.5 hours for yesterday. The first hour was a little over an hour, so over an hour, 2.5, that is 3.5. And then today we are literally getting to the 2 hour mark. So 1.5 hours, 2.5, that's 4 hours. Today, say full on 2 hours, that is 6 hours. So give or take, add the prep time, and that's 7 hours of work. So in terms of price point, let's talk about it. How much do you think this cake will cost? I mean, to be honest, I haven't looked at the price of ingredients, but give or take, I can tell you, like on top of my head, what the ingredients addition is. But we can talk about that in detail on Friday, just so that it gives you a general guide of how much ingredient costs to make a cake like this. But considering it's a give or take about 7 hours solid of work, anything between 7 to 7.5 hours of work. If I was charging myself even the rate of a minimum wage, which in the UK is it about £12? Who can tell me the minimum wage rate? God, my head is kind of like, you know. That alone will add, because even at minimum wage, if we set minimum wage at about £12, and £12 times 7 hours, that should give you your standard baseline. But then you have to add a percentage of business costs and profit and all of that. So that is a little bit, if you consider last kid, £80. Okay, so minimum wage is about £12.21. So if you multiply 12, if you say you set yourself, I mean, if you're a custom cake maker, you shouldn't be charging minimum wage because your skill is more advanced. And I'm not saying that to be precious. I'm saying that to say skilled workers need to charge themselves a bit more than minimum wage. But relatively, if you're starting, minimum wage is kind of a good guide to start from. Obviously, as we've discussed here, that is not what that influences my business at all, because I tend to kind of look at it by slice, just so that it is justifiable and easy to manage. But cakes are priced per business, so different things influence different business. And this cake will serve 15 to 18. I know that because I've done 7-inch cakes a few times. So a 5-inch cake like this will serve about 15 to 18 pounds. So yeah, I think, to be honest, realistically, Tapeta is right on this one, 180 pounds, because then for a serving of 15 to 18 servings for a fondant cakes brings a slice up to about 9 to 10 pounds per serving, which kind of makes sense, really. So yeah, I know the way they type makes it reads as pence, but I also know it's pounds. So I'm going to tell everybody what you're doing. Oh dear, right? So yeah, a realistic price for a cake like this, you know, is anything. A realistic price is anything between 100 and almost about the 150 to 180 pound mark, depending. So for instance, if it's a serving of 15, yeah, 150, and that is because if don't touch it, sir, please don't. Yeah, but that is because it's a custom made cake with, what do you call it, a carrot cake made for you from the ground up. And if I was using fondant, it would be massaticino. So that kind of also adds to the price point, but that kind of makes sense. But if you're starting, you could justify probably charging a little less, maybe 125 to 130 for that. That is not to sell yourself short, but that is just to make it a little more confident for you to be able to price anything less than that, because we are already looking at what minimum wage is, and minimum wage is £12.21. So if this is 7 hours work, and the 7 hours work is up there for you to see, if you go back to where we started, and don't forget, I covered the board before I came here, and I also organized ingredients before big time. That doesn't include washing up after. So we have clear evidence of the amount of time. But then again, we can also say that if I was making this cake for myself, I would probably not spend hours talking you through stuff. So that is neither here nor there. So a realistic price for this cake, because it's a fondant cake, is anything between a minimum. Fondant cakes are, you know what, I have a love-hate relationship with fondant cake, because it's an extra detail, extra layer of work and tasks, okay? And sometimes I'm like, oh no, I don't want to. But who doesn't love a cake like this? Why wouldn't you? But you know what, you can get the equivalent of this cake in non-fondant version, and it will be cheaper, affordable, and okay. So if you can't afford a fondant version, you can always consider a non-fondant version, and that is completely okay. Yep. So anyway, little person, Tapita says hello. He's pulling faces. I'm gonna tell everybody he is okay. So go on then. Okay, can we be gone then? Because yeah, I'm gonna tell on you. Okay, all right. Hugs to you. Love you. Okay. Thank you. Right, people. We're 2 hours in. Our panda cake is gone. Let's have a final appreciation for all the work we've done today. And then, yeah, I'll be back tomorrow in my next video when we're making a banana cake. And perhaps on Friday, we'll be able to cut into our cake and see what it looks like a couple of days in. Okay? But otherwise, great to have you. Thanks for your support. Lollipop, I hope you're able to achieve success making your panda cake. And yeah, Tabitha, you found a Ghanaian wedding to watch, but I'm not sure it's a good one. You know what? Just on the platform, just enter the words Ghanaian traditional wedding. You'll find some that are organized in Western settings. It's fine. You don't have to. The Ghanaian traditional weddings are sometimes like done by people who are like, say, for instance, I'm here now, so I wouldn't go back to Ghana to have a traditional wedding, right? So people who are here, who plan their traditional weddings, who still bring the customs and traditions to it. So yeah, have a look around and see ones that pique your eyes. I was having a look at some for research purposes, and it's kind of escaped me which ones I would recommend. Otherwise, probably have a look in the community post, and I will probably recommend a couple of content available for you to see what that one is. And then I will see you on tomorrow when we make the banana cake and talk some more cake. Lasso Kid, Tapita, Lollipop, our new friends, all of you who have joined us today. Sometimes I'm just like, it's the people who are right in front of me that I look at. Mira, Thelma is gone, Litonia, all of you who have been here today with me. I sincerely appreciate you being here, spending your time and attention with me. Always love here, and hope you have value, and happy baking and decorating. I'll see you in my next video.